Hello, it's 9 a.m. in Warsaw. This is World News on TVP World. I'm Marie Kate. Polish Defense Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz will host his counterparts from France, Germany, Italy and the United Kingdom in Krakow on Friday for a meeting of the so-called E5 group. Kosiniak-Kamysz will also welcome the High Representative of the EU for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Kaja Kallas, and Deputy Secretary General of NATO, Radomila Shcheryńska. Mikhailo Fedorov, Ukraine's defense minister, is also due to attend. The officials will also discuss Euro-Atlantic and European defense, hybrid threats, and Russia's war in Ukraine. It is the 7th such meeting in the so-called E5 format since 2024. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy made it clear that European representatives should attend the next round of Ukraine-Russia peace talks to make sure their positions are also considered. Excuse me, the Ukrainian leader made these comments during his latest nightly address.
There will be a report here in Kyiv on those aspects of the negotiations that should not be discussed over the phone. We will also define the next framework for talks with our partners, with the American side, with the Europeans, and with the Russian side. It is important that Europeans are present in Switzerland. This is exactly how we expect to work going forward, ensuring that Europe's positions are taken into account. I would also like to thank all members of our delegation for strictly adhering to the directives during the negotiations. It's crucial that Ukraine speaks confidently, speaks strongly, and speaks in a coordinated manner. Ukrainian unity always delivers the greatest results.
Russia was almost entirely reliant on American technology to prosecute its invasion of Ukraine. That's according to a top Ukrainian military advisor speaking exclusively to TVP World. Serhiy BESKRESTNOV, who advises the country's new defense minister, sat down with our correspondent Alex Cadier, who joins me now. So, Alex, he revealed some fairly extraordinary details. What can you tell us now?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This conversation was mainly focused on Starlink, Marie. Now, we knew that some elements of the Russian armed forces were using Starlink on the battlefield. There were some signs, Ukrainian intelligence reporting that the Russian forces were using Starlink in some ways, but we did not quite realize the scale of it, and that is what he told me.
In fact, we understood that the Russians were using Starlink, but we did not realize the scale, how large the number of terminals that they were using on the front lines was. When we introduced our actions and countermeasures related to Starlink, we primarily thought about Starlink being used to strike UAVs, the drones Russia uses to attack our country. But when we saw the consequences, we were surprised because we did not think the enemy used such a large number of Starlink terminals at the front. As it turned out, the entire communications architecture on the front lines, especially at the forward edge, was built around Starlink, and at this moment, they have nothing that can replace it. We analyze signals intelligence intercepts from the enemy and other sources of information, and we can see that for them, this is not just a problem, it is a catastrophe.
So clearly they're indicating the scale of this problem for the Russian armed forces. We understand, of course, in the last few days, there has been a Ukrainian counter-offensive, perhaps not a massive counter-offensive, but regaining territory in the east on the Ukrainian forces because that deactivation of Starlink by Elon Musk's SpaceX was catastrophic, as you heard from that Ukrainian advisor. Now, this has been a problem. There are also a couple of questions I asked them about exactly why SpaceX acted now. We have known that the Russians were using Starlink for a while. Why now? Well, his take on that was there are two reasons. One, there is a personal relationship between the new defense minister, Mikhailo Fedorov, and Elon Musk. That helped a lot, but also the Ukrainian side provided evidence to SpaceX that Starlinks were being put on Shahed drones, on drones that were being used to hit buses, to hit trains, to hit this city of Kyiv and others across Ukraine, hitting civilian infrastructure, civilian people, and therefore SpaceX drew a line and said that is not acceptable. We have to stop the use of Starlink. And finally, a point that Flash, as he goes by his code name, call sign, I should say, made to me. He said Starlink is not just about the military, it's not just about the battlefield. He was extremely grateful to Poland, who of course provides a very large number of the subscriptions for these Starlinks on the Ukrainian side, because not only does it enable the Ukrainian armed forces to defend their country, it also allows the soldiers to stay in touch with their loved ones. For that, Marie, he said that his soldiers on the front line, very grateful to the Polish government and the people of Poland.
Alex Carrier joining us from Kiev. Many thanks for that report. Ukraine observes today the Day of the Heavenly 100 Heroes, commemorating the Ukrainians who were killed during the Revolution of Dignity in 2014. Friday marks 12 years since the height of nationwide demonstrations where hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians took to the streets to protest the then president's decision to abandon further integration with the European Union. Pro-Russian President Viktor Yanukovych refused to sign a political association and free trade agreement with the bloc, opting to forge closer ties with Russia. The peak of the protests, which largely concentrated on Kiev's central town square called Maidan Należności, saw over 100 people killed. The revolution was used as a pretext for Russia to annex the Ukrainian region of Crimea, paving the way for the full-scale Russian invasion in 2022. President Donald Trump convened the first meeting of his newly formed Board of Peace on Thursday. Several countries pledged a total of $7 billion to help rebuild Gaza, and 5 nations committed boots on the ground. Trump also promised $10 billion in commitment and said the U.S. would work closely with the United Nations to strengthen it and provide financial backing.
We're going to be working with the United Nations very closely. We're going to bring them back. I think the United Nations has great potential, really great potential. It has not lived up to potential. The 8 wars, I never even spoke to them about one of them, and I should be speaking to them about all of them. Someday I won't be here. The United Nations will be, I think, is going to be much stronger. The Board of Peace is going to almost be looking over the United Nations and making sure it runs properly. But we're going to strengthen up the United Nations. We're going to make sure its facilities are good. They need help. And they need help money-wise. We're going to help them money-wise. And we're going to make sure the United Nations is viable. And you have some very good people at the United Nations, can do a good job. But as I said, I've said it for years, United Nations has tremendous potential. A lot of people didn't like when I said it. They said, oh, you shouldn't say that because, you know, we don't care about the United Nations. No, it's really very important. And I think it's going to eventually live up to potential. That'll be a big day.
Belarusian delegates did not attend Thursday's inaugural meeting of Donald Trump's Board of Peace because they were unable to obtain visas to travel to the U.S. Trump had extended an invitation to Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko. Following discussions between Minsk and Washington, it was agreed that Foreign Minister Maxim Byzenkov would attend. However, he failed to make the trip. According to the Foreign Ministry of Belarus, which posted on X, all the required documents were submitted on time. The post ends, quote, "If even basic formalities aren't respected, what peace are we talking about?" In the UK, King Charles's younger brother, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, was released from police custody on Thursday evening after being arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office over allegations of sending confidential government documents to child sex offender and financier Jeffrey Epstein. Mountbatten-Windsor, who turned 66 on Thursday, had been questioned all day by detectives from Thames Valley Police. Earlier this month, the police force said it was looking into allegations that he had passed state documents to the late convicted sex offender while working as a trade envoy. Mountbatten-Windsor, the second son of the late Queen Elizabeth, has always denied any wrongdoing in relation to Epstein and said he regrets their friendship. The arrest of the senior royal, 8th in line to the throne, is unprecedented in modern times. After more than 2 decades of planning and setbacks, Warsaw has opened a massive waste-to-energy facility. The plant is designed to process a third of the capital's garbage and generate electricity and heat for tens of thousands of households.
The first garbage trucks were already rolling in as Warsaw officially opened its long-awaited waste-to-energy plant. Dubbed the Warsaw Energy Plant and launched after a quarter-century of debate and construction delays, it's the largest facility of its kind in Poland.
This is the largest industrial installation built in Poland in recent years. We spent as much on it as we did on dredging the canal at the Vistula pit.
Now, how much is that exactly? Nearly €500 million. When running at full capacity, the plant will process roughly a third of Warsaw's municipal waste. It's expected to generate enough electricity per year to power 50,000 households and enough heat to warm 30,000 homes, comparable to that of a medium-sized combined heat and power plant. The project was directed by South Korea's POSCO, and though the ambassador spoke very politely at the opening ceremony, many disputes remain over who is responsible for the over 2 years of construction delays.
The waste-to-energy facility being inaugurated today, delivered through cooperation between Poland and South Korea, is another symbol of the fruitful partnership between our two countries. By processing waste and supplying the local community with heat and electricity, this facility represents a key piece of infrastructure for a clean and sustainable urban environment.
At the plant, waste is burnt at temperatures between 800 and 1,000 degrees Celsius. The process produces more energy than it consumes. The city officials also insist the filters are so advanced that emissions equal to those of a single diesel truck. On the roof, nearly 2 hectares of green space have been planted with flower meadows and beehives, a symbol, they say, of environmental responsibility. Inside is a maze of pipes, boilers, and valves. The most striking feature is a massive crane equipped with a multi-shell grab. Operators use it to move up to 8 tons of waste at a time into a 110-meter-long bunker that can hold 5,400 tons, enough for nearly a week of operation. Garbage trucks unload indoors, driving up a heated 120-meter ramp to avoid traffic jams and contain odors, 2 elements which had raised the most fears among nearby residents.
We look at investments like this in terms of how uniquely they bring together complex industrial challenges with environmental protection and the comfort of residents. That was the challenge. I am convinced this place will become a symbol of how to combine what may seem impossible to combine.
Now, Warsaw says it hopes the facility will eventually support Europe's climate neutrality targets, although under current EU rules, waste incineration is not classified as a green activity. Nevertheless, Warsaw sees the plant as essential, as it reduces the need to transport waste long distances and strengthens the city's control over its waste system. When asked whether the plant could also lead to lower waste collection fees, however, officials declined to provide a definitive answer.
President Donald Trump has ramped up his threats to Iran to pressure the country into curbing its nuclear program. U.S. officials say sufficient military resources have been deployed in the region to launch an attack on Iran by this weekend. Speaking on board Air Force One, Trump told reporters that Tehran must make a deal within the next 15 days or, quote, bad things will happen.
Today on Iran, bad things will happen if Iran doesn't make
really
a
bad
deal.
things.
What will that?
I'm not going to talk to you about that.
Okay, can you just know what is the goal if there is a U.S. military
Well, we're
strike?
going to make a deal, or we're going to get a deal one way or the other.
But with a military strike, is it to wipe out their nuclear program?
I'm not going to talk to you about that, but we're either going to get a deal or it's going to be unfortunate for them.
And you said today 10 days. Have you given them a deadline firm to make a deal?
I would think that would be enough time, 10, 15 days, pretty much maximum.
And that's all for World News right now. We'll be back with you at 10 a.m. with more news and headlines. Goodbye.